Our gospel lesson today is from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 18, verses 21 through 35. Then Peter came and said to him, "Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times?" Jesus said to him, "Not 7 times, but I tell you, 77 times. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. And as he could not pay, his lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payments to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, 'Have patience with me, I will pay you everything.' And out of pity for him, the lord of that slave released him and forgave him his debt. But the same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii, and seizing him by the throat, he said, 'Pay what you owe.' Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, 'Please have patience with me, and I will pay you.' But he refused. Then he went and threw him into prison until he would pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw that had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord all that had taken place. Then his lord summoned him and said to him, 'You wicked slave, I forgave you all the debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you?' And in anger his lord handed him over to be tortured until he would pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will also do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart." This is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. It would be easy to look at the gospel reading, and that from Exodus also, and think justice was served. The slave from the gospel lesson was handed over to be tortured until he could pay his debt, and Pharaoh's army was drowned. Freeing the Israelites is a pivotal moment and a clear triumph, with a celebration proving they are the chosen people. A moment glorified in the movies with Charlton Heston parting the Red Sea, a spectacular special effect etched in the minds of those who have seen it. But is it right to celebrate? In the lectionary notes this week, Reverend Dr. Derek Weber refers to a rabbinic teaching that says, "When the Israelites crossed the sea and were safe, a cheer broke out in heaven. Then, when the sea crashed down upon the pursuing Egyptian army, another cheer went up in heaven. But God turned to the angels and said, 'Why do you rejoice when my children have drowned in the sea?'" This clouds our vision of the triumph. We want to celebrate the oppressed being set free, but we can't rejoice in the suffering of others. It isn't so clear-cut anymore. I wonder, how many of those Egyptian soldiers were killed by the waters of the Red Sea? Were just like any other young soldiers? Did they have families at home, partners and children to support, and mothers and fathers who loved them? Were they soldiers who were simply serving their country in situations over which they had no control? Had they even been given a choice about their service? So can we hear the story of victory in this text, even while acknowledging that God's heart is broken whenever one of God's children suffers, no matter who it is? Dr. Weber writes about the irony of this Sunday, just 2 days past 9/11, a day where we demanded justice. The news coverage of the burning Twin Towers embedded in our memories. Reports, false reports, of Muslims in this country singing and dancing with joy at the devastation. And even though the dishonest fabrications of these reports were exposed, some still cling to that image. So, how do we, as people of God, celebrate the destruction of the Egyptian enemy in the sea with dancing and singing, and feel good about it ourselves? We cannot. But we can be aware of the implications of our celebrations and our praise. We should be aware that praying for freedom is threatening to the status quo and unsettling for many. People will be hurt in the struggle for liberation. Change is happening around us, and unfortunately we cannot ask for any easy road to painless transformation. But we must ask for God to go with us. Whether times are difficult or comfortable, God is with us. God goes before, and God follows behind. So let us rejoice that God is with us. When there seems to be no way, God makes a way. When there seems to be no hope, God is our hope. And God continues to be our hope, the hope we live out in our moving forward, even when we feel like giving up. So I invite everyone to celebrate this hope and join in singing, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms.